Scott, would you call the roll, please?
Dr. Portolino? Here. Mr. Daughtry?
Here.
Mrs. Fano?
Here.
Dr. Modrak?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Mr. Rappaport?
Here.
Ms. Zuckerman? Here. Mr. Palma?
Here.
Mr. Grau?
Here.
Mr. Arena?
Here.
Mr. Rizzetti?
Here. Pledge allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sunshine Law.
The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of the Act, the Montville Township Board of Education provided a public notice of this meeting, which included the time, date, and location that was posted at the Montville Township Municipal Building, all Montville Public Schools, the Montville Public Library, the Montville Township Board of Education Administrative Office Building, the district website, and advertised in the Daily Record, the board's official newspaper, on February 5th, 2022.
Thank you. Gentlemen, go on, who wants to go first? Okay, Dan.
So, starting with the sports. Unfortunately, the baseball team lost in the semifinals of the Morris County tournament to Randolph 6-1 last week. This week, on Wednesday, they played Morristown away and the day after at home, so they'll look to right the ship. The softball team still has not shown any signs of slowing down as they ran through West Morris 10-3 in the semifinal round of the Morris County tournament. They will play Roxbury this Friday in the finals. The boys lacrosse team took a loss to Morris Knolls 13-5 last Wednesday. They had their senior night canceled on Monday, but they will play Mendham in the state tournament this Wednesday, May 18th, so best of luck to them. The girls lacrosse team picked up 2 wins last week, beating Wayne Valley 12-9 and stopping Immaculata 15-6 on Saturday, both of those at home. Montville Golf's hot streak continues as they beat Jefferson on Wednesday, May 11th, and placed second overall in their sectional tournament. Also, sophomore Eli Kaufman won the individual state sectional, and because of this, was invited to play in the Tournament of Champions today. And to conclude sports, the boys tennis team beat Hanover Park on Tuesday, 5-0, making their record 9-7 for the year thus far.
Thank you, Dan. Bill,
Not to get into some student news.
can you speak into that?
Not to get into some student news. Starting 2 weeks ago during lunch throughout this past week, tickets for the senior breakfast and senior prom were sold. Also, these past 2 days we collected forms for the table arrangements at prom. And this overall concluded our sales for senior events. Also last week on Wednesday, May 11th at 7 p.m. in the courtyard, the School of Rock hosted their senior send-off concert. AP exam testing also started last week on May 2nd, and they continued throughout the week until Friday, May 13th. Congrats to all the seniors who survived testing. Makeups will be held this week. Testing started for the freshmen and juniors with the NJSLA and NJ GPA tests, which began on Monday, May 16th, and continued until Wednesday, May 18th, and then makeup testing will be held next week. In current news, we are excited to report that junior Brendan Glennon was accepted to this summer's NJ Governor's School of Engineering and Technology hosted at Rutgers University during the month of July. And in future news, the MTHS Performing Arts will hold their small ensemble concert with performances from percussion ensemble, chamber choir, chamber orchestra, and the jazz band, and many more on Monday, May 23rd. Their large ensemble concert with band, orchestra, and choir will be the next day on Tuesday, May 24th. Both concerts are at 7 p.m. and everyone is welcome. And then senior breakfast will be held at the Mansion in Mountain Lakes on Friday, May 27th. Schools will be closed on Monday, May 30th for Memorial Day. Senior prom will be held on Thursday, June 2nd at Mayfair Farms. Senior awards will be held on Wednesday, June 8th at 6:30 p.m. And because of the weather, the May 16th National Honor Society induction was postponed to Monday, June 13th. And finally, the Triumph Music Honor Society induction ceremony will be held in the senior courtyard on Tuesday, June 14th. A lot of events.
Dan, does Jefferson still use Bowling Green as their home course?
They do, yeah.
No. Okay. And you beat them last Monday?
Yeah.
Very good. Good season. How many golf balls have you lost?
Just a few.
Any questions for the gentleman? Thanks so much, guys. See you in June. Superintendent's report, please.
I just want to make some brief comments with regard to the event that we had last Thursday at Montville Township High School. The moment that our principal picked up the phone and called the police with regard to this event, that becomes a police matter. And the police take over. Any comments or statements that are issued as a result of the event come from the police, and the school district does not have the ability to issue information, provide information to the public. The police, when they arrive, also establish a command center, and they control the deployment of staff and any other resources that they deem necessary to manage the event. Our staff and students, as acknowledged by Montville Township Police, did all the right things. We have plans in place, we practice them, we drill them, and when it came time for them to deploy them, our folks were magnificent. We hope never to have had to put these things into place, but Thursday's event brought into clear focus the dedication and caring of our staff members. Through a frightening and emotionally charged scenario, they guided the students, made them feel safe, and problem solved to get through the long hours required for the police to do what was necessary to ensure everyone's safety. I am truly grateful that we have such amazing faculty, administrators, and students that were able to handle this situation so well. It was really a marvelous thing. And thankfully, due to the efforts of Montville Township Police and Norris County Sheriff's Office, everyone was kept safe throughout the length of the event. So that concludes my remarks.
I also, on behalf of the board, like to thank you for keeping everyone updated during the afternoon with the various email blasts that were going out. I know that people appreciated them. And again, I thank you. Any violences? Nothing is known, correct? On this agenda?
No.
All right, Mrs. Slund is our business administrator, and she has a brief program, PowerPoint on transportation study, which was recently completed, and she'll give you the background, and then we'll go from there. Okay?
Thank you very much. The district has undertaken a transportation study. The last time the transportation study had been done was about 10 years ago. Just as some background in terms of transportation, the guidance for transportation is actually established in the state statutes, and so that guides the different decisions that are made as we put together routes and decide in terms of how students are transported. As part of the statutes, it defines what students are required to have transportation for those students between pre-K and 8th grade. Any student who is more than 2 miles from their residency to school is transported and required to be transported by the district. And a student in 9 through 12 is 2.5 miles is the marker, at which point they are required to be transported. In terms of that calculation actually is the distance between your home to your assigned school. We are allowed to not only use roads, but any other public access. A perfect example of that is if you happen to fall in the area around Community Park. Those routes among community parks in terms of little pathways are actually public walkways, and they are used to do the measurement and the calculation. So it's not necessarily how you would drive to the school. It can also be how you would be able to walk on public walkways. And that calculation is checked and rechecked in order to make sure that we know where those lines are as we go from school to school and as the students move through the grades and progress. For those students who are under those markers, so if you're from pre-K to 8 you're under 2 miles from your school, or from 9 to 12 under 2.5 miles from your school, there is no requirement for the board to provide transportation, but they are allowed to offer it, which this board does, and that's called subscription busing, and they're allowed to charge a fee for that. And even with the fees that are requested from those who participate in subscription busing, the board is still subsidizing the entire transportation program at 90%. So those fees are only actually covering 10% of the cost to transport the students in Montville. According to the statute, we work with the township. The township is actually the entity that determines whether a route is considered to be hazardous. And once a route is deemed to be hazardous, then just like with those students above 2 miles or 2.5 miles where we're required to transport, we are required to transport students who are along routes that have been deemed hazardous. And as I said, the Township of Montville determines whether or not a route is considered hazardous. As an overarching statement, Montville Township School District uses neighborhood bus stops. So those stops are reviewed every year. We pick locations that are safe and do not require the students to be on the bus too long. We consider the age of students, so those different bus stops can move depending on how old the student is and how far they are able to walk. Obviously, the older students can walk further than the younger students. But that process of evaluating bus stops is done annually. Now, this particular study, the purpose of this study was to request the Township of Montville through the police department to evaluate the bus routes that are being used by Montville Township schools, as well as those neighborhood stops that I just mentioned. And when we approached the Montville Township Police Department to ask for their assistance, they actually assigned us their safety officer, and our safety officer then proceeded to walk us through his evaluation of the various elements of the study. In terms of the bus routes, what we asked was that for the safety officer to review the current bus routes through the district, and we asked them to evaluate them on very specific criteria. When the safety officer was looking at those bus routes, he was looking at the population density that existed around the routes, the volume of traffic, the velocity that the vehicles were traveling. He noted whether sidewalks were present, whether there were inclines and declines in the roadways, whether bridges or train tracks existed through the routes. He examined the topography of the routes in order specifically to look for clear sight lines for drivers as they would approach different areas of the routes. And he made an assessment based on that as to the safety of those routes. The same exercise was done on the various neighborhood bus stops, looking at the volume of traffic and the average velocity of speed of cars coming through the area, presence of sidewalks, inclines and declines in the topography, bridges, tracks, and again, was looking at sight lines. And from that, he was able to give us feedback as to the safety of not only the current bus routes, but also the bus stops and whether or not those stop locations were good. We also went to our current providers. The providers are those bus companies that provide transportation, and mostly are O'Dowd Transportation and First Student. And we asked them, because their perspective is a little different. They're not just only looking at the safety of the runs, they're also looking at how safe the bus can be operated in different locations. So when they looked at those runs and those bus stops, they were looking for ease of travel, particularly when the weather is inclement, as well as traffic volume, velocity of speed in terms of bus stops, and then ease of stopping and starting when weather is not well. The end result of that study deemed that there were 2 locations in the township that were considered to be hazardous by the safety officer of Montville Police Department, and those were Route 46 and the corridor of 202. What that means is that the Board of Education, as part of this agenda, will be adopting a resolution identifying the 46 corridor and the Route 202 corridor as hazardous, which will then provide transportation to all the students who are part of those particular corridors to be transported by the district. In addition to that, what we will be doing is taking the information we gathered from the study and then apply that to the bus routes as they're developed for the 22-23 school year, and then the neighborhood bus stops as they're developed for the 22-23 school year. So all of the routes will be set for next year, as well as the stops, will have been reviewed by the transportation traffic safety person from the police department, along with the providers, and will be then congruent with the outcomes of the study.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Swan. That happens to be on the agenda one of the items that Eugene has referred to. We then go into committee reports. Finance, Karen?
So the Finance Committee met just shortly before this meeting. We went over our financial status for the end of the year. We also went over some of the school construction projects that will go on over this summer. We reviewed the transportation study as well.
Thank you. Curriculum, David?
No report.
Policy, Mr. O'Brien?
The policy committee met on Tuesday, May 10th. Dr. Shorter was good enough to provide us with all the work, the materials to do more work. In total, I think it was 80-some pages of policies that we reviewed. Information about work orders within the district, cooperation with law enforcement agencies, parent involvement, intervention and referral services, and HIV were all topics that were dealt with in policies as given to us by our policy making group. So everything went swimmingly, and I think we will be voting
On the
on
agenda tonight, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Communications, Michelle?
No report?
Safety and security, Mike Rappaport?
Yes, I spoke with the administration, and once the final police report is available for last Thursday's Tuesday, we'd like to convene a committee just to review our policies and procedures, just to make sure we are aligned with what the police need, and that if there's any changes or things we can do better next time.
Thank you. Delegates, previous school boards, Karen?
Thank you, Charlie. I'll keep my report short, maybe only 30 minutes or so. So on May 7th, the Legislative Committee met. Just a couple of items from that meeting. We had the honor of hosting Assembly Republican leader John DeMeo from Legislative District 23. It was an insightful meeting. The Assembly leader opposes pilots, so that was kind of refreshing to hear, since pilots do not contribute to the school board's budget, but do produce children that go to the schools. He's fully supportive of completely funding the school funding formula. That was also good to hear. We also, as a committee, discussed the fact that the School Ethics Commission is, right now, a first-year school board member has an entire year to complete their mandatory training. The School Ethics Commission was looking to cut that down from a year to 30 days. New Jersey School Boards has convinced them to extend that to 90 days. So within the first 90 days that a new school board member is seated, they will need to get their training. The Board of Directors met on the 13th, and essentially the most important element that came out of that meeting, the most important agenda item, was the appointment of the new executive director. As many of you know, the current executive director, Dr. Larry Feinstock, who's been with the association for the past 10 years, is retiring after 50 years in education. He spent 30 years as a superintendent, 10 years at the helm of New Jersey School Boards. And the new approved executive director of New Jersey School Boards will be Dr. Timothy Parnell. And the last item is May 14th, the Delegate Assembly met of the New Jersey School Boards. This is a meeting that happens twice a year where policy can be adopted that guides New Jersey School Boards and how they advocate for school districts. So one item of interest was the amendment to the bylaws, which adds a qualification for New Jersey School Board Association officers. And that additional qualification is that in order to be eligible to become an officers association, in addition to other requirements, a candidate has to have at least certified board member status. And I would just like to point out that recently New Jersey School Boards put together and has published a guide to board education meetings in New Jersey, and this can be found on the NJSBA's website. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Karen. Morris County, Mike?
My report is somewhat shorter than Dr. Portolino's because I have been communicated with by Morris County School Board.
The next meeting is in June, right? I believe the next Morris County meeting is in June.
No, not communicated at all.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Joe? Kescom?
Yes, we had a meeting last Wednesday. Discussion was the update on the sale of 100 Academy Street. Susan had the closing today. I haven't heard how that went. We've also been dealing with the superintendent evaluation. We worked on that at our last meeting, and that we have our reorganization meeting on June 8th, at our last meeting.
Are they still Zoom or in person approaching it?
They are still on Zoom.
Still Zoom? Thank you, Joe. Drug awareness, Mr. Palmer?
Yeah, the committee met last Wednesday. I was unable to attend, so I don't have a report. However, I do have a couple things I need to say. Since 2007, I've been board liaison to drug awareness. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve with community people who are, just like you're here, with no compensation, doing it only because they care about the community, the civic organizations, and their desire to keep the community free of drugs and alcohol. It's a tremendous group of people. I'm so honored to have been a part of it and to have also worked with Joe as chairman. Things change in life, obviously, and I've now gotten to the point where I have an opportunity to join an organization which is going to require me to be somewhere else every Wednesday night. So for that reason, I've advised both Dr. O'Farrell and Mr. Grell that I'm not able to continue as liaison to the EAC. Again, it was an honor and privilege to work with them, and I wish the organization absolutely nothing but the best.
Michael, thank you so much for all of those years. I didn't realize it was back to 07. But that's a long time, 15 years. And thank you for all that you have contributed, and good luck in your new venture.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you'll enjoy that So we will have a vacancy, but Joe, since you are the chairman, would you mind also being the liaison since you're at the meeting at the same time?
Yep, that's.
Okay, so I'll appoint Joe as the chairman, as the liaison. It's getting a lot of titles, liaison, chairman. And again, thank you very much, Mike Palmer, for the time and effort that you put into the Purple Wings. Liaison athletic boosters, Mr. O'Brien.
Likewise, it is a pleasure to serve and an honor to serve with the Montville Athletic Boosters, otherwise known as the Mustangs. And because the meeting was postponed, I'm not sure why, a couple of weeks ago, the meeting is scheduled for tomorrow night at 7 o'clock.
Thank you. It's Wednesday at 7.
Wednesday evening at 7.
And then
You
first
can
Zoom
Zoom
or
in.
Zoom?
Zoom.
PGC, Karen.
Cedar Hill Home School is meeting tomorrow.
Hildale have the trips on Sunday. Valley View,
Our next meeting is on June 7th.
Christine.
Next meeting for William Mason will be on Monday, June 23rd at 7 p.m. on Zoom.
Mr. Palmer, Woodmont.
Next week, as long as they're coming by Woodmont, I also had the opportunity to go to their trick or treat at Brownstone this past week. It was a lot of fun. It was really good to see a lot of old faces and have some good food and just share some old memories.
Did you buy anything?
I spent money. Thank you for being responsible about that.
Very good. Lazar.
Yes, so they have been very busy over at Bazaar. They had Teacher Appreciation Week, and the kids are also excited to get back outside for recess. They've enjoyed the book fair, and they've also enjoyed the extra little activities they get to do during the testing week. So they also honored Jen O'Neill and Sharon Uhas as Educator and Teacher of the Year, respectively. They were talking about, if you notice in the good news section of the agenda here, they mentioned the 7th grade trip to drop off reef structures, these big reef balls that weigh 1,200 pounds each. And they're going to drop them off, I think, the northern Atlantic coast of New Jersey, and hopefully that will help the reefs out there. They've been doing a lot of other things. The big event coming up, though, is Living Lessons. That's Thursday. It's an amazing event, just a wonderful, wonderful program. This year, they're going to be having, for instance, a former slave from the Congo speak, Holocaust survivors, World War II vets, the rabbi from the Tree of Life from Pittsburgh. They're all going to be speaking. They remind the parents that the cafeteria is closed that day, so bring a lunch. They also discussed restarting the ambassador program, where a family in Lazar was paired with a family who's moving to Montville to help the kids adjust to life in Lazar. Work on the master schedule, they're working on the end of year festivities, and the last things I'll mention would be while the MTHS concerts are the 23rd and 24th, the 7th, 8th grade concert is the 25th, and the 6th grade concert is the 26th of May. And they're also trying to plan a Broadway night. So they're keeping very, very busy over there, having a good time.
Thank you, Derek. High school.
PTC held their last meeting of the year last Monday. It was a virtual meeting. With several teachers attended, and it was great to hear the updates from every one of the departments about the really interesting and wonderful work going on this school year, and showing us some of the projects the kids have done and explaining what they're doing. We were happy to honor the teachers and educators of the year, Mrs. Heitman, Mrs. Neely, and Mr. Devonta. The PTC emphasized, the teachers expressed their appreciation that for the first really more in-person traditional appreciation luncheon that we were able to have in many years. And the PTC really wanted to reiterate our appreciation for the teachers and the administrators and what they've been able to do for our students, and we're very happy to be able to do that this year. They announced and approved the PTC Executive Board for the next school year, and we gave thanks to our retiring presidents who've been leaders in the PTCs for, they've been in the schools since Cedar Hill and Ozark for 14, 15 years, and leaders in the PTCs for most of that. So, Kathy Fernandez and Kamolden, we were very happy to acknowledge and thank them. So it was a good meeting, and we'll meet again in the fall.
Thank you, Michelle. Any questions for any of our liaisons? Next part of the agenda is taking a resolution to adopt the agenda. It's an opportunity for anybody who would like to speak to any items on the agenda. Now is the opportunity. There'll also be an opportunity at the end of the meeting to talk about any other items that you would like to discuss. Are there any questions on the agenda from any member of the public? Come up to the microphone, please, and identify yourself.
No.
Hi. Pull that down a little.
Good evening. My name is Minnie Mutusani.
You speak into the mic and speak up. Active.
My name is Minnie Mutusani. I had emailed in regards to the transportation study. So I was just wondering whether any information from the transportation study is going to give any insights in regards to what's going to happen for the next school year, starting in September, because I brought up the issue probably last school year, and I haven't heard anything in regards to anything, any results or anything like that. So do you know when they'd be able to have those? Because for me, there's a safety issue for the kids that are getting off at that stop.
This
So-
relates to a specific stop. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, okay. So my suggestion is that I will touch base, I already have your email,
Yeah.
and I will touch base with you, I can do that tomorrow morning, to give you the feedback we have on that particular stop.
Okay,
Okay?
okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I will entertain a motion for items I through N.
So moved.
Second.
Second, anybody? Say second?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions, discussions on I, J, K, L, M, N? Roll call, Mrs. Swan, please.
Mr. O'Brien?
Aye.
Mr. Daughtry?
Yes.
Dr. Cordellino?
Yes, except abstain on the meeting minutes from the last meeting.
Mrs. Fano? Yes. Dr. Modrak?
Yes.
Mr. Rappaport?
Yes.
Ms. Zuckerman?
Yes?
Mr. Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Grau?
Yes. Section B, there's no need to go into a closed session this evening. Section Q, is there any old business? The Board of Education, we will be meeting again on June 7th, I believe, right?
Yes, Charlie, just a reminder to the board members that NPSBA workshop is being held on October 24th, 25th, and 26th.
Karen, speak into the mic.
New Jersey School, just a reminder to board members that the workshop, New Jersey School Board's workshop is being held in Atlantic City, October 24th, 25th, and 26th. It's always a great opportunity to network and to learn, and I recommend even if you can only go down to one day to do so. And as you've been hearing me say these past few weeks, our Board of Education team for Relay for Life is still a little bit short of our goal of $1,000. However, I would like to thank Mike O'Brien for his additional contribution to help us put us over the $1,000 mark. And if anyone hasn't contributed, please consider it. We're only $75 short.
Thank you, Karen. Any other old business? Okay. Any new business or general board comment? I know that Thursday, Lazar is having the living lessons. I know some of us have gone to that. Public participation is an opportunity for any member of the public who would like to speak to anything that's not on the agenda. Seeing nothing, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Swint.
Mr. Modrak?
Yes.
Dr. Modrak? Sorry. Mr. O'Brien?
Aye.
Dr. Cordellino?
Yes.
Mr. Daughtry?
Yes.
Mrs. Fano?
Yes?
Mr. Rappaport?
Yes.
Ms. Zuckerman? Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Graff?
Yes. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.